Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're going to talk about a tool that is quickly becoming essential for anyone building with AI, the LiteLLM Proxy. We're going to look at how it's basically a universal adapter for large language models, and, more importantly, how it's saving developers from a massive headache that is becoming all too common.
Okay, let's kick things off with a story that I'm sure sounds way too familiar to a lot of you out there. You pick an AI model provider, let's say OpenAI, and you build your entire application around its API. Everything's great, but then a new model comes out. It's faster, it's cheaper, maybe it's just plain better for what you need. But it's from a different company like DeepSeek or Anthropic, and now you're kinda stuck. Switching means a huge, painful rewrite.
Right. That is the vendor lock-in trap. And it's a huge problem. It doesn't just slow you down. It can completely stifle innovation, forcing you to choose between a painful migration project or just getting left behind by better, newer tech.
But what if there was a better way? What if we could lean on a really core software design principle here? Imagine this. What if your application didn't even need to know which AI model it was talking to? That principle right there is called decoupled architecture. The idea is actually pretty simple. You create independence between your own code and the external tools you rely on. So instead of your app talking directly to OpenAI, it talks to a middleman, an abstraction layer that handles all of that messy, specific communication for you.
So picture this, a kind of universal adapter that sits right between your app and this, chaotic Wild West of AI models. Your app makes one simple, standard request to the adapter, and then the adapter figures out how to translate that request for Azure, for Anthropic, for a local Ollama model, or any of the hundreds of other providers out there.
And that is exactly what LiteLLM Proxy is designed to be. It's not just some theory, it's a powerful open-source tool that acts as that universal adapter for your entire AI stack.
So here's how it works. The genius here is that LiteLLM creates a server that perfectly mimics OpenAI's API, which has become the gold standard, right? This is the key. It means any code that's already written to call OpenAI can now call over 100 other models, from the big cloud providers to open source models running on your own machine without changing a single line of that original application logic. Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks. How hard is this to actually do? You're gonna love this. If your code is already using the standard OpenAI library, you literally change one line. Instead of pointing your code to OpenAI servers, you just change the base URL to point to your local LiteLLM proxy. That's it. Just like that, you've broken free. Your application is no longer chained to a single provider.
Okay, so this is where the real magic happens. All of that complicated stuff, the routing, the connecting to different models, all the credentials, all of it gets pulled out of your app's code and dropped into a super simple configuration file. This file basically becomes your central command center where you tell LiteLM which models you want to use and how to talk to them.
So for example, check this out. Here's how you'd set up a connection to a specific model you've got running on Azure OpenAI. You just give it a friendly name, you plug in the model path and your credentials, and you're done. Now your app just asks for that friendly name, and LiteLLM handles everything else.
And here's the cool part. Look what happens when you want to add another model from a totally different provider, like AWS Bedrock. It's basically the same thing. You just add another entry to your config file. So now, if you want to A/B test Claude 3.5 Sonnet against GPT-4o, you just change one little string in your app's API call. That's it. No redeploying, no messy code rewrites.
And this flexibility, it goes all the way down to your own laptop. You can even set up LiteLLM to send requests to a model running locally through Ollama. This is an absolute game changer for development, for testing, or for running smaller, fine-tuned models for specific tasks, all through that same single unified interface.
But wait, there's more. LiteLLM isn't just a universal adapter. Once you have all your AI traffic flowing through this one central point, well, you unlock some serious superpowers.
Because all your traffic is going through the proxy, you suddenly get this whole suite of production-ready tools. You can automatically cache common requests, which saves a ton of money and makes your app way faster. You can set hard budgets and rate limits for each user to make sure costs don't spiral out of control. And you get one single unified place to see logs and track spending across all your different model providers.
Let's make this real. Let's talk security. Say you want to make absolutely sure that no sensitive customer info, no personally identifiable information, or PII, ever gets sent to a third-party model. Well, with LiteLLM, you can plug in a service like Aporia,
Add a little guardrails section to your config file, and boom, the proxy will automatically inspect and block any requests that contain sensitive data. It also lets you do really smart things like load balancing. Let's say you've got a couple of Azure deployments to handle all your traffic, or maybe you want to fall back to the main OpenAI API if Azure is ever having a slow day. You just list them all in your config. Tell LiteLLM what their specific rate limits are, like tokens per minute or requests per minute, and it will intelligently route your traffic to whichever endpoint is healthiest and most available. This is how you make sure your app stays fast and reliable even when it's getting slammed with users.
All right, so let's zoom out a bit. What does all of this mean for your long-term strategy? Why is thinking about this stuff so critical right now?
So you see, bringing in a proxy layer like LiteLLM, it's not just some small technical fix. It's a fundamental strategic move. It's about giving your team the freedom to always use the best, the cheapest, or the fastest model for any given job. It standardizes how you access AI, it dramatically simplifies your code, and it gives you a central control panel for cost, security, and performance. In the crazy, fast-moving world of AI, this is how you future-proof your application. This whole approach really shifts your focus. It takes you away from wrestling with APIs and puts you back where you belong, building amazing things. Which leaves us with just one final and I think really exciting question to think about. If you could use any AI model in the world instantly, effortlessly, what would you build next?